Hey everyone, and let's talk about the battery health and more specifically how to maintain it. So let's say you buy a new iPhone, and if you check out the battery health, it's automatically 100% since you just unpacked it. But in order to make sure that it stays like this throughout the time, or that the decrease is actually slow, you need to do a couple of things. Of course, don't overcharge your iPhone and some simple stuff like this, but also make sure at first to enable optimized battery charging. So that means that it's going to use it's going to track or like notice your habits, and it's going to make sure that it charges to 80% and then it stretches the remaining 20% until you should be able to pick up the phone. In other words, you go to sleep, you charge your iPhone, and it's going to charge to 80% at like 1 a.m. and then from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. because the iPhone knows that you usually wake up at 6 a.m. it's going to stretch out the remaining 20%. So when you wake up, your iPhone is going to be full and the battery is not overcharged. So that's the first thing. The next one is not about the actual charging, but making sure that whenever you're using iPhone, you use it in a good temperature. That means that you don't use it in a too hot or too cold environment. And Apple as a company gives you some advice on what the good temperature is. So they give you like a comfort zone for your iPhone, iPad, and iPod, and also the Apple Watch. So that means that you should keep it at the room temperature, and the room temperature, according to them, is from 32 degrees Fahrenheit all the way to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That means that you should always keep your iPhone at around this temperature. Don't expose it to lower or higher degrees, because then it's not going to be the best for your battery long term, and that may cause the battery to degrade a lot faster. That doesn't apply to some short-term effects, because of course if you bring your iPhone to cold area, the battery life, the actual percentage, can actually go down, but if you keep it long enough in the cold area, then the battery health will decrease. For some quick time out in the snow, it's not going to hurt the battery that much, but if you do it repeatedly and often, then it definitely will damage the battery. But let's say that you switch from an old iPhone to a new one, like you have this, for example, iPhone 12, like I do, and if I check out the battery health on this one, it's 88%. Not that bad, but I'm not going to use this iPhone. So I want to keep the battery capacity, because whenever I bring it out once again, I don't want to see like 80% in here. So the way that I should approach this is by using the Apple Watch or charging it up or discharging it to about 50%. That means that it shouldn't be fully charged or fully discharged whenever I want to put it into my shelf or drawer or whatever to store it. So before storing, it's best to keep it at 50%. Once you reach the 50% mark, you can just turn off your iPhone normally, because you of course don't need to use it anymore, so we don't want to drain the battery anymore. You just turn it off and you're gonna be okay with that. You can just store it in the box wherever you want, but also keep it at the room temperature naturally. So this is how you save or maintain battery health of a device that you don't want to use anymore. Then you also should pay attention to the cases that you use on your iPhone, because whenever you're charging, you of course just place your iPhone on a charging pad or you just plug in the cable, but it also can easily happen that the case that you use on your iPhone may prevent the heat from getting out, because the case manufacturers don't really care or really look after this kind of stuff, and it may happen that the iPhone gets really hot. If you have a case, just occasionally check out the iPhone while it's charging. If it's not really hot, if you feel that it may be too hot, then make sure to take out the iPhone out of the case and charge it without it. Then once you're done, just slap it back on, it's okay. But during the charging, if iPhone gets really hot, then it's also not really good. It would be the same thing as exposing it to really high temperatures. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind too. And besides that, there are only those like regular things, like to save battery life, you can turn on the airplane mode, and of course turn it on if you really want to, but it's an iPhone, so you want to have access to the internet, to the cellular data, so it's not really a good thing. Perhaps turn it on during the night. Disable background app refresh, you can find it in the general section here in the background app refresh. Perhaps turn it off for all the apps, or at least minimize the amount of apps that have access to it. Other things would be location services. So going to the privacy and security, you can see location services. Just really consider which apps have access to it, because for example, some apps have never while using it. Some apps can literally have it always. So if you have some random stuff always tracking your location, then you probably just want to turn it off. Like, it doesn't necessarily has to be that way. If some random app just keeps on tracking your location without you even knowing, then it drains your battery life short term, but it also decreases the battery health in the long term. So these are the basic things that you can do. Hope this video helped you out. If you want to see more videos about battery health, for example, the iPad, you don't really have this thing on the iPad. You cannot just check it out in the settings. There is like a more complicated way to do that, because you don't really have this on the iPad. So in that video, I show you exactly how you can achieve it, because yeah, it's a bit more complicated. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Subscribe. See you guys there.